Okay, welcome to part 3 of this conversation that we're having about 8 habits to really take care of yourself, because self-care is something as human beings that we are not very good at, and people don't really know what that means. So this is part number 3, there's part number 2, and there's part number 1. You can listen to them in any order you like. So if you're listening to this now, just stay here and then go back and listen to part number 1 and part number 2. All right, so we've got 8 habits. Let's talk about habit number 3. We're going down from 8. Habit number 3. We've got 3 habits to go. Master your reaction. So here's one of the greatest truths about life. It's not what happens to you that matters. It's how you respond. Now, life's unpredictable. People are difficult. Circumstances are constantly shifting without warning, and yet most people are literally living a little bit like a puppet on a string. So an insult arrives and they erupt in anger, or there's a delay and they get super frustrated, or there's a disappointment. Things don't work out the way that they expect and they collapse. So when we do this, we're literally surrendering our happiness and our peace to every passing event. But what if you can change that? What if you can, take control of your inner world even when the outer world is in chaos? And this is the third habit, cultivating emotional control. I want to be clear about something. Emotional control doesn't mean that I want you to suppress your feelings or become cold or robotic. What it means is that I want you to understand that while you can't control what happens, you can always control how you interpret it and how you respond to it. All right? I want you to think about it. You can have something happen, right? And the exact same event can completely destroy one person and barely faze another person. We all know examples of this. And the difference isn't the event itself, it's the interpretation. So if you're distressed by something outside of yourself, something external, the pain that you're experiencing isn't due to the thing itself. It's due to the story you're telling about it. And you have the power to change that story at any moment. This is so profound because it means that your freedom doesn't depend on the world changing. It depends on you changing how you see the world. How do we cultivate this habit? One of the most important things, honestly, is to have a meditation practice. Come and do the 10-minute mind with me. It's in 70 colleges and universities around the world. It's 10 minutes a day. I guide you through a practice because what it does is it helps you with step number 1, which is awareness. You've got to start noticing your triggers. You've got to see what events or words spark emotions in you, like anger or fear or frustration. And I need you to learn to observe them without judging, right? I want you to get to a place when something happens for you to remind yourself, it's not this event that's disturbing me, it's my interpretation of it. Because that separation between the event and the interpretation, that's where your freedom lives. And this is what meditation teaches you. Step number 2 is to practice pausing. This is huge. When something triggers you, don't react immediately. Take a breath, create space between the stimulus and your response. If you're meditating, this is going to be 50 times easier. Start with small situations. Maybe someone cuts you off in traffic, or maybe someone you work with makes a comment you don't like, or maybe your plans get delayed. So instead of reacting instantly, just pause for a moment and ask yourself, is this within my control? Or how would a wise person respond? Is this worth giving up my peace for? So with practice, you start to train your mind to insert calm between the trigger and the response. And this pause becomes your superpower. And then step number 3 is you reframe it. So you learn to reinterpret that adversity. So instead of seeing obstacles in your life as threats, see them as opportunities to practice patience or courage or self-control. We need to get stronger. We need to build our resilience. Maybe you get stuck in traffic. Great. Practice patience. Maybe someone insulted you. Great. Practice self-control. Maybe your plans fell through. Great. Practice pivoting. Practice adaptability. If you learn to reframe in this way, you can turn every single challenge into your teacher. And then step number 4 is to reflect every day, each evening. Review your day. Where did you lose control? Where did you succeed in mastering your emotions? What could you do better tomorrow? And this creates continuous improvement. So emotional control isn't achieved in one day. You build it through daily reflection and correction. And the wonderful thing is that this habit also transforms your relationships, because most conflicts are fueled by emotional reactivity. Someone gets angry, then the other person answers that with anger. Or someone insults someone, and then you answer it with insults. I see this in a lot of your close relationships. So when you practice emotional control, you're breaking that cycle. If you can respond with calm instead of escalation, then you're breaking the cycle. If someone says something you're not liking and you listen instead of reacting, you're breaking the cycle. You begin to choose wisdom over impulse. And you begin to become an anchor in the storm. You are the calmness, And the great thing is this is backed by science, because modern psychology confirms this. Cognitive behavioral therapy teaches that emotions are shaped by beliefs. Change the belief and the emotion changes. And so our meditation practice echoes this. We learn to observe our thoughts without judging. And we start to create the distance between ourself and the emotion. And at its deepest level, this habit is about freedom. So if you can't control your emotions, then you're a slave to them. And anger becomes your master. And fear becomes your dictator. And if you master your emotions, you start to become free. So the world can insult you, it can disappoint you, it can even hurt you, but it can't control you, because your mind remains your own. So this is the third habit. Master your emotions. It's not repression, it's mastery. So if you can learn to take control of your responses, then you protect your peace, you strengthen your character, and you're loving yourself in the deepest possible way. Okay, habit number 2. I harp on about this one a lot, but I really want you to hear it again. Focus only on what you can control. So at the heart of our peace and our happiness, there's a simple truth. Some things are within your control and some things are not. So everything in life flows from this distinction. If you cling to what lies beyond your power, what other people think, the events that are happening in the world, what outcomes will happen that you're not in control of, you're going to live in constant frustration. You're going to be anxious. You're going to be despairing. But if you can focus only on what is truly yours, your choices, your actions, your responses, you're going to find freedom and peace and strength. So this is the second habit. Practice this dichotomy of control. So why is this self-care? Because nothing drains our energy more than trying to control the uncontrollable. All right? We waste hours worrying about what other people think. We rage about events in our world that we can't change. A lot of people are clinging to possessions that eventually going to be lost anyway. So we're fighting against reality, and in doing so, we destroy our own peace. So real self-care means that we're protecting our mind from any suffering that's not necessary. And the fastest way to suffer less is to get clear what's within my power and what's not. I call it the circle of influence. What is within my circle of influence? What's actually in my control? And here's the truth. Not much. You can't control what other people think about you. You can't control whether you get sick. You can't control what the economy does. You can't control whether people like you. You can't control what happens in the news. You can't control how long you're going to live. But you can control your effort, your character, your choices, how you interpret events, how you treat people, whether you live within integrity, whether you're living within your values. You can learn to control your mind. That's it. That's your domain. And if you can fully accept this, something profound shifts, because you're going to stop wasting energy on things that don't belong to you. You're going to stop raging at circumstances. You're going to stop exhausting yourself trying to control outcomes. And instead, what you'll do is focus entirely on what is yours, your response. So how do we practice this? First, the constant reminder. Every day, remind yourself, I can't control events, but I can control how I meet them. And the second thing is to detach from outcomes, not to detach from a whole bunch of things. People always use this word detachment. You're not being detached in that way. Just detach from outcomes, all right? So when you act, don't focus on the result, which depends on many external factors, but focus on the effort, which is entirely yours. I'm always doing my best. I'm always giving my all, and then I release the outcome. I can't do any better than my best. As long as I'm doing my best, I feel good. Then what you do is you train your desires. Don't desire things that aren't yours. Don't desire that 6-bedroom house and that amazing car and that person that's not interested in you. All right? Don't desire a job that you're not qualified for. Just, that puts you in a place of fear because you're trying to have things that you can't have. If you desire approval, you're going to make yourself a slave to other people. If you fear death, for example, you're going to make yourself a slave to fate. So just desire things within your control and keep your desires small. It doesn't mean you can't aspire to things, but don't desire a whole bunch of stuff and buy it on Amazon and aspire. There's so little that we need to really be happy. I tell you what you could do that you could desire that's within your control. Desire acting with integrity. Desire treating people well. Desire growing as a person. And then the fourth thing is to reflect every day. Every evening, ask yourself, where did I waste energy today on things beyond my control? So did I worry about others' opinions? Did I get upset about things that were happening? Right? And remind yourself, peace lies in focusing on what's mine and my circle of influence. And over time, this reflection strengthens the habit. So why is this so transformative? Because most misery that we're experiencing comes from forgetting it. All right? I had someone recently that I was working with who was obsessed with being liked. And they would literally bend themselves backwards to please other people. And when they got criticized, it was just terrible for them. And when they got rejected, they had stories of being rejected, and there was so much despair. But I taught them that others' opinions aren't within their control. And as they began to remember this, we started to find real freedom for this person. Or consider someone, I had a student recently who was clinging to wealth. And they were so afraid about their money. And they came to me because they were afraid that they were going to fall into some kind of collapse if something went wrong with their wealth. But wealth isn't within their control, right? There are certain things that they were able to do to be sensible, and then we had to work together, training that person so that they would remain calm even if they lost some of the things that they had. So the dichotomy of control is the master key to being free. And again, science confirms this, We really, and there's so many therapies that teach people to separate controllable from uncontrollable factors. Why? Because it reduces your anxiety and it builds your resilience. Two things we want. We want that anxiety down and we want that resilience up. And of course, athletes and leaders are practicing this mindset as well. They focus on the effort, they release the outcome. And I want to be clear that at the deepest level, this habit is an act of love toward yourself. If you're going to chase control over what is uncontrollable, it hurts you. So I want you to free yourself from that burden. Imagine how peaceful life would be if you stopped trying to control others, and that is your partners as well. If you stopped clinging to outcomes, if you stopped raging at just kind of the fate of life, and if you stopped wasting energy on what's yours. Imagine the calm you would gain. Imagine the energy you'd save. This isn't passivity, it's power. Really is this power to act with full effort and with zero fear. If you do it, you have the power to live aligned with reality. So tomorrow, when you're facing events beyond your control, or today, just pause, breathe, remind yourself, this isn't mine. What is mine is my judgment, my choice, my action. And then act with that wisdom, act with that courage. If you do this every day, you're going to discover a freedom that no one can take from you. So this is the second habit. Focus only on your control, right? This is a shield that literally protects you from unnecessary suffering. If you can master it, then you're going to really decrease your anxiety, increase your resilience, and have a strength to deal with this very uncertain world. Now we're at the final one. Habit number 1 out of these 8. Live according to your values. So we've explored 7 powerful habits so far. Each one strengthens your soul. Each one protects your mind. But they're all building towards something deeper, something essential. And that's this: living according to your values. So all the other habits, morning reflections, guarding your time, embracing discomfort, honest journaling, right? Emotional control, positive visualization, focusing on what you control. These are tools, these are training methods, these are steps on a path. But the path itself, the path is living with integrity. So here's what I mean. Real self-care isn't about techniques and tricks. It's about becoming a person that you are proud to be. So it's about aligning your actions with your deepest values. So when there's a gap between who you say you are and how you actually live, you suffer because you quietly feel guilt and shame and anxiety. That's your inner self telling you something's wrong. But when your actions match your values, when you live in integrity, you have peace, you have happiness, the kind that doesn't depend on circumstances. So what are values? They're literally the principles that guide how you want to live. They're things like kindness and honesty and courage and justice, wisdom, compassion, growth. Just some examples. These aren't abstract ideals. So this is the first and most powerful habit. Live according to your values. What are values? They are the principles that guide how you want to live. They're things like kindness and honesty and courage and maybe justice, wisdom, compassion, growth. They're not abstract ideals. They're literally practical guides for every decision you make. So when you face a choice, you ask, does this align with my values? Does this reflect who I want to be? And here's the beautiful thing. Your values are always within your control. You can't control outcomes. You can't control what other people do, but you can control whether you act with honesty, with courage, with kindness. If those are your values, that's always yours. So living according to your values is the ultimate form of self-care because it cares for the deepest part of you, your integrity. So without integrity, no amount of comfort can give you peace. With integrity, there's no amount of hardship that can take away your dignity. So let me give you an example of what it looks like. If you have wisdom as one of your values, you might really seek to see things clearly, make decisions based on truth, not on convenience, not on emotion. Maybe you have compassion as a value. Then you might want to treat yourself and others with kindness and recognize that everyone's struggling in a similar way. So these aren't nice ideas, they're practical. And if you ask yourself, am I acting with wisdom? Am I acting with courage? Am I practicing compassion? These questions become your compass for your life. And this habit also means that you reject hypocrisy. So many people preach values they don't live. We see this so much in the modern world, right? A lot of people in power are preaching values they are so far from. They say they value honesty. They lie when it's convenient. They say they value courage, but they avoid hard conversations. So real self-care means that we close that gap. So it means that you align your actions with your principles, even when it's hard, even when no one's watching. And this alignment creates integrity, and integrity brings us peace. It makes us happier. So if you betray your values for comfort, it hurts our souls. So honoring yourself by living within your values is true self-love. And there's another beautiful aspect to this, because if you're living with integrity, you feel more deeply connected to others, right? You strengthen your relationships. So self-care isn't selfishness. It's strengthening yourself so you can contribute to the world. You know, again, science helps us here because there's studies that show that people who live with integrity, who are acting according to their values, they have greater well-being and resilience. So they are suffering less from regret, they're suffering less from anxiety, they're suffering less from inner conflict, and they also have stronger resilience. So living with integrity, if you want to be happy, it's a psychological necessity. But here's the challenge. If you're going to live according to your values, you have to be vigilant, because every single day there's going to be temptations that are going to show up to move you out of your values, all right? And that's why you need the other habits, because the morning reflection reminds you of your values. Journaling shows you where you're doing well and where you're failing. Emotional control helps you choose values over impulses. So values aren't a one-time decision, they're a daily discipline. And you build them by choice, moment by moment, until they become your second nature. And at the deepest level, I really want to say to you that living according to your values is love. Not sentimental love, but real love. Respect for yourself and others, you know? And that is such a beautiful thing. If you can master this, you won't just love yourself, you become unshakable. Okay, so we've reached the end of this journey together, and I hope that you've enjoyed it. You've got these 8 powerful habits, all right? They aren't just ideas, they're tools, they're practices, they're ways of living that will genuinely transform your life, because they have transformed my life. But here's the thing, knowing them isn't enough, you have to practice them, all right? So we have to live it. So I want to challenge you. Don't let these habits remain just as words in your mind. Put them into practice. Choose one today, just one. Take one small step. Maybe it's starting tomorrow with 5 minutes of reflection instead of scrolling your phone. Or maybe it's saying no to one thing this week that drains your energy. Or maybe you're going to write honestly in a journal tonight before you go to bed. Start small. Build your momentum. One habit leads to another. One day leads to another. And slowly, steadily you transform. Just imagine yourself 1 year from now if you practice these habits daily, right? I mean, be so incredible. That's the promise of these habits. That's the life you can choose, all right? And remember, you're not alone. I'm here to help you, to guide you, to walk beside you on this journey. So just take a breath, feel the strength of what you've learned, right? And I'm super excited to hear how you get on. I hope this has been helpful. Don't forget, listen to all 3 parts of this because it's very powerful stuff. As always, be kind, take care, go gently in the world.